We spent 50 years fearing the wrong disaster. For decades, scientists warned us that overpopulation would kill the planet. They told us we would run out of food, run out of space, and consume ourselves into extinction. But while we were panicked about having too many people, a much darker reality was quietly taking shape. Look at the playgrounds in your local neighborhood. Are they as full as they used to be? Look at the schools closing down in rural towns. The data coming out of 2024 and 2025 isn't just bad, it is catastrophic. Japan has just broken a record that hasn't been touched since the 19th century. South Korea is statistically vanishing before our eyes, and the economic engine of the world, China, has officially begun to shrink. This isn't something that might happen in the distant future. The demographic collapse has already started, and it is moving much faster than any government predicted. We are standing on the edge of a global tipping point that will rewrite the economy, destroy pension systems, and fundamentally change what it means to be a human society. The question isn't when the crash is coming. The question is, why did we never hear the crash coming?
If you want to see your future, you don't need a crystal ball. You just need to look at Japan. For years, economists have treated Japan as a quirky outlier. They thought its shrinking population was a unique cultural issue that wouldn't touch the rest of the West. They were wrong. Japan is simply a time machine. It is showing us exactly what happens when a society stops replacing itself. In 2024, the number of babies born in Japan fell below 700,000 for the first time since records began in 1899. That is a milestone the government didn't expect to hit for another 15 years. The collapse is accelerating. But the real terror isn't the empty cradles, it's the overflowing nursing homes. Japan is currently staring down the barrel of what experts call the 2025 problem. This is the moment the entire baby boomer generation hits the age of 75. Suddenly, millions of people move from being active retirees to requiring late-stage medical care. The system is already cracking. In the first half of 2024 alone, a record number of nursing care providers went bankrupt. They didn't run out of customers, they ran out of workers. There simply aren't enough young people left to care for the old. And this creates a terrifying cycle. The few young people who remain are crushed by taxes to pay for the elderly, which means they can't afford to have children of their own, which shrinks the future population even further. Japan is dying a quiet death, losing the equivalent of a medium-sized city every single year. And the scariest part? The rest of the world is following the exact same map.
If Japan is a slow-motion car crash, South Korea is a high-speed collision. No country in human history has ever stopped having babies this quickly during peacetime. To keep a population stable, you need a fertility rate of 2.1 children per woman. Japan is struggling at 1.15, but South Korea? Their rate has crashed to a world record low of 0.72, and projections show it hitting 0.65 by 2025. Let me put that number in perspective. At that rate, for every 100 South Koreans today, there will be roughly 4 descendants left in just a few generations. It is mathematical national extinction. The situation is so desperate that the government is throwing billions at the problem, but nothing works. In fact, the collapse is spreading to every single province. Even the wealthy cities are seeing birth rates drop below 1.0. But why is this happening? It's not that people hate kids, it's that the environment has become hostile to human life. South Korean students face the most intense academic pressure on the planet. They spend their childhoods locked in hagwons, or cram schools, studying from early morning until late at night. By the time they enter the workforce, they are already burnt out. Then they face a housing market that is mathematically impossible for an average worker to afford. So they make a rational choice. They choose survival over reproduction. They call it the Sampo generation, giving up on courtship, marriage, and children. And recently, it's evolved into the Enpo generation, which means giving up on everything, including hope.
We often blame video games or selfishness for the decline in families, but the truth is much more brutal. The modern economy has turned human beings into batteries, draining them until there is no energy left for a personal life. Nowhere is this clearer than in China. For years, the tech sector operated on the infamous 996 schedule. That means working from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week. But recent reports from 2024 suggest it's getting worse. In some manufacturing and battery sectors, workers are facing an 896 reality, starting at 8 a.m. and grinding until nightfall. How can you possibly raise a child when you're at work for 72 hours a week? You can't. And the system punishes you for getting older. In China, there is a widespread phenomenon known as the curse of 35. If you haven't reached management by age 35, you're often considered expired goods. Job postings explicitly exclude anyone born before 1990. This creates a frantic panic among young workers. They have to work themselves to death before they hit 35 just to secure their future. This leaves zero room for dating, let alone raising a family. In response, young people are rebelling. They aren't rioting in the streets, they're just lying down. The Tong Ping or lying flat movement has evolved into a total rejection of the rat race. Young people are moving to rural towns, working the bare minimum and refusing to participate in the national project of making babies and making money. They're looking at the deal society offers them, work until you die for a pension that might not exist, and they're saying, no thanks. There's a chilling scientific experiment that might explain exactly what is happening to our brains. Back in the 1960s, a researcher named John B. Calhoun built a paradise for mice. He gave them unlimited food, unlimited water, and no predators. He called it Universe 25. At first, the mice bred rapidly, but as the colony became crowded, something strange happened. Even though they have enough physical resources, the social pressure broke them. They stopped breeding. Males became aggressive or completely withdrew. Females stopped caring for their nests. A group emerged that Calhoun called the beautiful ones. These were mice that withdrew from society entirely. They spent their days just eating, sleeping, and grooming. They had no interest in mating or fighting. Does that sound familiar? In Japan, there are an estimated 1.46 million hikikomori, people who have withdrawn into their bedrooms, refusing to leave for months or years. But it's not just total recluses. Look at modern dating. In China, apps like Himmer verify your university degree before letting you join. Love has become a transaction. People are trading resumes, not emotions. In Japan, you can visit a cuddle cafe and pay by the minute just to sleep on someone's lap. We are monetizing basic human connection because we have forgotten how to build it naturally. Just like the mice in Universe 25, we are surrounded by abundance, yet we are suffering from a social and behavioral collapse. Our biology is signaling that the environment is wrong, and the result is a species that refuses to reproduce.
For 40 years, China relied on a limitless supply of young workers to power its factories. That era is officially over. The devastating legacy of the one-child policy has come back to haunt the superpower. They engineered a society with a 4-2-1 structure: 4 grandparents, 2 parents, and 1 child. That 1 child is now expected to support 6 aging adults all by themselves. It is a financial impossibility, and the government knows the crisis is here. In a historic move that shocked the public, China announced in September 2024 that it would raise the retirement age starting in 2025. For decades, Chinese workers could retire as early as 50 or 60. Now, they will be forced to work years longer. The pension fund is running dry, and the state cannot afford to pay for the massive wave of elderly citizens. This changes everything for the global economy. China was the factory of the world because labor was cheap. But as the workforce shrinks, labor becomes expensive. The era of cheap goods is ending, and China faces a unique problem. It is getting old before it got rich. Japan and the West became wealthy nations before their demographics collapsed. China is facing a population crash while huge parts of its population are still developing.
With a surplus of 35 million men who can't find wives due to gender imbalances and a youth unemployment rate hovering near 19%, the social contract is fraying. The engine that drove global growth for 30 years is running out of fuel.
So what does this mean for your wallet? Most people assume that fewer people means more resources for everyone, but economics doesn't work like that. Our entire financial system is a Ponzi scheme, built on the assumption of endless growth. We need more workers tomorrow to pay off the debts we took out today. When the population shrinks, that math breaks. This is the Japanification of the world. It means low growth, massive government debt, and a lack of innovation. Think about it. Who starts businesses? Who invents new technologies? Usually, it's young, hungry people. When a society is dominated by 70-year-olds, capital flows into safe assets like bonds and healthcare, not into risky startups or new ideas. We are already seeing this in Europe. Germany's birth rate has dropped to 1.35, and its industry is stalling. Italy is closing maternity wards because there are no babies. As these countries age, they will fight over the one resource that matters more than oil: young people. We are about to see a global war for talent. Countries that used to be closed off to immigration are suddenly throwing their doors open. Even Japan, historically one of the most closed societies, passed controversial laws in 2024 to create pathways for unskilled foreign workers to stay permanently. They have no choice. It's either import workers or watch the lights go out. But this creates a new tension. Can you import a workforce without changing the culture? And will young people from India or Africa want to move to countries that are essentially giant nursing homes?
The demographic winter isn't coming. It is already here. The United States is currently sitting at a fertility rate of 1.6, well below the replacement level. We are surviving only because of immigration, but eventually, even the source countries will dry up. Latin America is aging rapidly. India's birth rates are falling faster than anyone predicted. By the second half of this century, humanity will face a new reality. We will be a shrinking species. This might sound like good news for the environment, and in the very long run, perhaps it is, but the transition will be painful. We are going to have to reinvent how we live. We might have to abandon the idea of retirement entirely. We might see the end of cheap consumption. We might see ghost cities spreading from China to Europe. But there is a deeper lesson here. The collapse of birth rates is a report card on our civilization. We have built a world optimized for production and consumption, but hostile to life itself. When young people look at the future and decide it's not worth bringing a child into, that is the ultimate vote of no confidence. The rats in the mouse Utopia didn't die because of a lack of food. They died because they lost their purpose. If we want to turn this around, we don't just need tax breaks or childcare subsidies. We need to build a world where human beings feel like they have a future worth sharing. Until then, the playgrounds will keep getting quieter.
The population collapse is the single biggest story of our lifetimes, yet it is happening so slowly that we barely notice it. It challenges everything we think we know about the economy, about retirement, and about the structure of our lives. Japan was the warning, Korea is the panic, and the rest of us are next in line. If you found this analysis eye-opening, make sure to subscribe, because the world is changing faster than the headlines can keep up. We are entering uncharted territory, and I'll be here to map it out with you. Thanks for watching.